guys, welcome back to another one of my videos. If you click the title, you already know what it is, but I will be making a dessert sculpture from the anime Jujutsu Kaisen, specifically Mahito and his domain expansion. This is number 2 of the 2 projects that someone from Instagram had suggested to me or had requested. And to be very transparent, I had not seen Jujutsu Kaisen. You can come at me in the comments because having comments would be nice. Good or bad, so sad. But yeah, I hadn't seen the series or read the manga, and so I was just like, oh god, I don't even know what this scene's about. And I felt kind of bad about it because I feel like I should be more well versed in whatever I create. And I will let you know, I have started season 1. I'm pretty much done with it. I haven't started season 2 yet, so I'm not caught up yet, but I'm doing it. I'm there and I'm feeling it. It's a great show. And this is kind of big because I haven't watched anime, truthfully, in a very long time. And you're gonna be like, what is this poser doing making all these anime themed cakes? Well, if you can tell, most of it is Studio Ghibli, like movies I watched growing up. I just haven't really been hooked onto a series for a long time, like not since I was like in junior high school. Back when I was younger, I was really into pretty much everything Rumiko Takahashi did, so I was like really into Ranma. Ranma was my thing. I was into Meisani Koku and Yurisei Yatsura, and like when people were like, what's your favorite anime series? And I'm like, Ranma, like from the freaking like 80s and 90s. Like I just sound like this old grandma, but you know, I'm getting older, so that's just how it is. But yeah, they wanted a very specific scene, Mahito's domain expansion. So like in layman's terms, it'd be when they create this barrier for themselves and they have all this power, this cursed energy. And I'm sorry if I'm describing this terribly. I have seen the show. I'm just not good at explaining, and sometimes things don't process in my brain very well. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy watching me make it. It was a pretty long and stressful, but at the same time very enjoyable process. Hopefully you enjoy what I have in store for you, so please make sure to like, subscribe, ring a bell, leave a comment. I truly appreciate it. And let's get going. Before I started my usual sketch to get a good idea, I did watch this domain expansion scene of Mahito several times. It is a beautiful scene. It's overwhelming, but really in a gorgeous way. And simultaneously, I was very nervous because this was going to be a lot of hands. And I mean, I haven't really drawn much. I started maybe 2-ish years ago to try to draw more, and that's like once a month because I'm a lazy person. And so when I started to sketch out the cake, I quickly realized I need to practice some hands first before I even think about how I'm going to construct this cake. Sketching hands were like the bane of my existence when I was younger, so to have to do like 20 of them and then sculpt pretty much 20 of them was, I mean, my brain was so pooped. But I do have to give myself credit for trying really hard to make these look right. Just this part alone took so much time. I'm almost too embarrassed to admit. As usual, my lighting sucks, but here are what the sketches look like. I did a close-up of Mahito's face with like the little hands in his mouth, and then an overall side view of what I'm trying to make the cake look like. And yes, that is a lot of hands. Okay, so I had already made a ton of modeling chocolate. You could see that a little bit in my Rei Ayanami cake in my previous video. Make sure you check that out. I'll make sure to include a link right here. But as you may remember, I made a huge batch of white, and I did make some blues, and thankfully a lot of those colors are going to be needed for the Mahito cake, which in the end doesn't have a lot of color in it. That doesn't detract from the fact that this also took a very long time. I have absolutely no like logic or like idea of how I'm going to attack making these colors. I just go for it, I wing it, which is really scary and don't you dare ever make me take a color theory class, because I don't really know, but in the end, I'm always usually happy with how the colors turn out. If you're using modeling chocolate and you're not sure of how much to get, I always say getting a whole bunch of white is playing it safe. If all else fails, you'll still have a base color to work off of, and white usually goes into most of the colors that I make. This is me making the color of his skin. You can see I used yellows and blues and pinks. A lot of weird colors. I just like intuitively kind of thought that they'd work out, and they did. Next up, I had to make the colors of his actual hands. I wanted to make this a darker tone, and I had seen pictures and from the show itself where the hands kind of have this purplish hue, which I really like to look at. I wasn't sure how great that was going to turn out, like seeing it in person, but I just thought I'd go for it. With all that made, I then jumped into making the Rice Krispie base. I decided to not do cake this time because he has so many structural elements that are going to be heavy because they'll all be made out of modeling chocolate. I don't want to get like a poor, sad little piece of sponge in the middle struggling to hold on to like all these hands. And so Rice Krispie was the way to go. I made sure to tell my client, hey, this isn't going to be cake, and they were totally cool with it. And thank God they were, honestly. I have the Rice Krispie all made up. I then get a cake board and start to pretty much make a super basic shape. It's like a sad little mountain that I'll be making, but really a lot of the details I'm just going to rely on modeling chocolate. Rice Krispie is just, I mean, it's like a rough format. I'm sorry that came out really pretentious, but you know what I mean. Of course, use a lot of Crisco. This is a vegetable-based Crisco. Or are they all vegetable-based? I don't know. I've never used Crisco until I started working with Rice Krispie dessert sculptures, so please bear with me. But yeah, here's my sad little mountain of a dude, and also me contemplating, am I doing this the right way at all? I'm not sure, but let's just keep going and possibly stress eat some of the leftover Rice Krispie. After chilling in the fridge, because you want that cold to kind of help seize it up so it doesn't start like flopping around everywhere, I did have that big old batch of colors of modeling chocolate that I was going to then start laying down that thin layer to kind of hold it all together and give a clean surface like I do for all of my cakes and dessert sculptures. I wanted his face at the very top, so there's this little weird knob that I made, and I quickly jumped into sculpting because I hated looking at this little knob. Boy, when they say trust the process, truly trust the process. I have so many kind of miniature freakouts and breakdowns whenever I start a project. At least for the first like 75%, I'm just like, I don't know, am I doing this right? And I do second guess myself, and sometimes that works out because I realized the color of the hands that I made was a little too purpley, so I kind of added some more pinks to do more of a skin-based tone, if that makes any sense, because nobody's skin is this color. But I just thought it would look better. And then I jumped right into trying to slap on some hands on this little hill that he's sitting on. And it was just a really, like, I don't know why I did this to myself. It was basic torture trying to force myself to slap on some fingers, some very warm fingers, because modeling chocolate is only moldable when you're like warm. And it came out looking like Vienna sausages. So I decided I'm going to make all the hands first and then stick them on to the sculpture. They still look like Vienna sausages at this point, but I'm reinforcing them with wire and then cutting away the sausaginess of each finger so that they actually look like hands. Anime hands are also always, like, their hands and fingers are super slender, which is like pretty annoying when it comes to sculpting. So I just thought, like, as long as it looks like a hand, I'll slap it on and I'll try to do as much detailing and cleaning up after those hands are on the actual base. Look at all these completed hands. Aren't you proud of me? I sure am. I also bought this cake wire. I bought it extra thick and decided to cut it with scissors, and I definitely do not recommend doing this because they will ruin your scissors. I should have just used wire cutters, which I eventually did. And then I would get the wire, stick it in the base or stick it in the hand, just whatever was working for me at that time, because each hand was of course a little bit different, and the thick wire definitely worked out. It was my first time using it. I did use thinner wire before. You saw me use it when I was attaching his fingers like to his palm, but I knew I needed something sturdier when it came to attaching to the actual base. This is meant for someone else, and that someone else is also a stranger, so my worst nightmare is that a cake falls apart when I'm not around. After I would attach the hand, I would then reinforce it to make sure that it really stuck on with more modeling chocolate, and also just to like clean it up so it looks less like I just threw them all on. This was a pretty time-consuming step, but it was really satisfying to see it finally come together. After they were all on, I would go in and kind of give it actual hand details, smooth out bits that just didn't look right, and just essentially make them look more like hands rather than like when the hand was sitting on the cutting board. I would sculpt it and it just comes out like pretty much a 2D hand, like it's very flat, and so they're not realistic looking hands like on an actual human being. They are from an anime, so I just did kind of a general shape to make sure that they didn't look too clunky. After that, I decided to take a break and work on his face. Lots of smoothing out, adding in eyeballs. I did skip around a bit, so apologies that I'm not showing all of the footage. But this was the fun part, and yeah, I did go back and work on his hands a lot more after this too. I won't include much of it, but it was a pretty long process, and you know, I did want to tear my hair out here and there, but it was well worth it. Here I am with his kind of like eyeliner on, but also adding his gray stitching. After that was adding his hair. I have that pale blue color. I was excited about the hands coming together, but the hair really all pulled it into that official Mahito look. I decided to save the hair for the end because they were just really flowy and I didn't want anything to mess with that. I just kind of want to do that as a final touch. So once the sculpt is done, then it's painting time, and usually I'm pretty excited for painting time because I feel like it's really going to finish the actual piece. But I was nervous because I had to use these like purpley hands, and to shade that just felt like it would look, I don't know, alien. It's hard, especially when it comes to anime and not like monsters from a live action movie, because you kind of have to walk the line between anime and also this is out in the real world, and usually their colors are very flat when it comes to figurines. So I just wanted to make sure that my client was happy with this. You can see how nervous I am when I'm painting, but I decided to go with the easy part and paint the very base so that you can't really see it, that it's like this giant lavender blob in the middle, just to make that disappear. And after doing that, my confidence grew a little bit more, and I decided to shade his hands and eventually the rest of it. I didn't do too much painting. I just kind of made sure that he popped a little bit more than he already was. And here is the final Mahito dessert sculpture during his domain expansion. I just wanted to include this candid moment of me finally finishing all my cakes, and as well as a batch of cupcakes on top of it and getting ready to deliver it. I was so tired, so exhausted, and so happy that I was done, and that I was pretty happy with how it all turned out. And that was my Mahito dessert sculpture. I hope you enjoyed it. I wish I had more time. If it was a personal project of mine, I'd probably spend like 3 weeks on it and then like throw it in the trash, because at that point you probably shouldn't eat it, because it's just really intricate and I could work on hands forever. And I will say I'm definitely a little bit more confident in drawing and sculpting hands. And I just hoped that the people at the birthday party of my client didn't stare too close, but they really seemed to like it. And so that's what really matters in the end. And now I have new content to watch, and I'm subscribed to Crunchyroll and all that jazz. So a lot of good came out of it. And the best part was I'm really happy how Mahito turned out. I think it looks pretty cool. But again, please make sure to like and subscribe and ring a bell, because I would love to have you back. And we have a lot more fun in store. And happy Halloween, because I'm recording this a few days before Halloween. So by the time this goes up, it should be the ultimate spooky night of the year. But all right, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a good one. Bye.